Hello, this is Michael. In today's video, we are going to learn what are the updates of latest version of standard ISO 5459, and this standard is published in October last year, or it's 2024. And this standard is related to datum system. It takes about more than 13 years for ISO organization to renew this standard. So let's look at what exactly updates in this new standard. By the way, we have published a series videos about GD&T and ISO GPS. You can find the other videos in my channel. Okay, my name is Michael, GD&T and ISO GPS consultant. Number one, always the new standard. The page is increased from 88 to 126. So we can see there's quite a lot of new content added. Obviously, the price increased also to 216 Swiss franc. Let's look at details. Update number one, the new standard, add datum system identifier. Let's look at here. If you look at the drawing here, you may notice there's a position tolerance 0.2 and you use the datum DS number one, and this is exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about identifier, and the DS number one means datum ABC. So basically the new standard allow you to use the abbreviation of the data system in the drawing to make it more convenient for you. Okay, I don't think there's nothing special. Okay. Update number two, the new standard, add datum indicator of size of associated feature. Is pretty long. Let's look at what exactly does mean here. Here, there's a drawing. Datum A is a surface. Datum B is a hole. And you can see the basic dimension or theoretical dimension is 10. When we use this datum B in the position tolerance, you may notice there's a BSF10. It means size fixed. That means the datum eventually, the associated datum, we are going to use the fixed size, which is 10. So usually this fixed size associated datum is very helpful to locate part, especially when you make the gauge. So when you make the gauge, all you need to do here is make a fixed pin here to locate the part. Okay, so you can use also other way. Here, there's SV means size variable, and also you can here the fixed size allows you to add different value. SFXX means you can add 10 or you can add 20, whatever you want. Basically, this is the value of this fixed size. Okay, let's look at another example here. SV, as we mentioned, it means the datum B, we are going to use the size variable. And you can see here, the datum B dimension is 10 plus minus 0.1. So what does it mean here? That means when we locate the part, the associated feature, the size will be expanded within the tolerance until it fully touched inner surface of this hole. So look at it here, and then expand it, and then fully touch. Okay, so that means the datum pin is size variable. Okay, so this is the second way to to add identifier to express which kind of location feature you want to use. Next, what about this one? Here, datum B, there's a basic dimension here. It is squared. Okay, and here, datum B, there's nothing here. So what does it mean? Okay, it means you're going to use the size fixed, because here tells you clearly is size fixed. Okay, so even there's nothing here, you're going to use this one here. All right, next one. Here we're going to, what about this one? Here is size fixed 10, but however here there's a 10, right? And here we call this explicit. Then here it's implicit, but here is explicit. So we always recommend that you're supposed to use the explicit way to avoid ambiguity. Okay, to avoid misunderstanding, it's better to use the identifier here clearly. Okay, all right, that's good habit here. And this one is a little bit confusing, right? The dimension of datum B here is 10 plus minus 0.1, and here is SF10. SF means size fixed, but here there's tolerance. So what does it mean? It still means that you're supposed to locate a part with the fixed size, which is 10. Okay, which is 10 to locate a part. And you're going to measure this size separately, 10 plus minus 0.1. Okay. Again, the update number 2 is allows the design engineer to use the special datum indicator to specify which size you would like to use to locate part. All right. Then next one, the update number 3. The number 3 is very important update. It changed the default datum association criteria from minimax to Gaussian, and this is only used for single plane datum. Well, let's look at drawing first. Here, as we all understand, if the datum A is a single plane, here is the bottom plane. How to find datum? First, we got actual part. The bottom surface is not perfect. You see here, this is the bottom surface, and we know, and we have learned, if you learn the GD&T course, which I published in Udemy, you will know how to find this surface is called the datum feature, which is not perfect, right? And how to find this datum? First, we're going to use the min-max, which means all of the deviation supposed to be inscribed inside the minimum deviation of the range here. This is the area that we try to minimize the deviation. And once we can minimize the area, then we find the external contact surface, because the default should be always outside of the material. So here is the actual datum that the design engineer or the inspector is supposed to use, which here is datum A. Again, the association method, we call this min-max. Basically, it's talking about minimize maximum deviation. You see, this is deviation, and we minimize it, and then we get the external surface, which this one is perfect surface plane. Okay, the key here is minimize. Okay, the minimize maximum deviation also sometimes we give another name, Chebyshev. It's a name of a famous people. He invented this formula. Okay, the new standard, how to find the datum? The new standard use different formula. This formula, we call this formula least sum of the square. The center plane, we are going to use the least sum of square to find center plane, and then offset to the external surface. So which is looks like it's hard to understand. What's the exact difference here? Before answer these questions, we should understand what is least sum of squares. Then you need knowledge. Okay, this formula basically here there's a scattered point. Point number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 could be multiple point, and then we try to find to associate it to best fit a center line here. Now how to get this best fit? Okay, there's a formula here. This is number 1 and there's a minor deviation. This is number 2 point and there's a minus deviation. We call this deviation. The actual point to the line that you get, there's always deviation here. You can make a different center line. Okay, so each line you will get the first this deviation, and then you square it, and then you sum it and try to minimize it. So basically we call this least sum of squares. Okay, and this famous formula is, you know, created by Gaussian, and Gaussian is famous mathematicians. Okay, so you may learn this formula, I don't know, in high school maybe. Okay, so again, as we said, this Gaussian or least sum of squares, we are going to use all of the point. Each point gets deviation, and each point will be used to find the sum and then minimize. You may find a different line. For example, you may try this line. Okay, and this line you can find different deviation, right? And obviously the sum will be different. You try to find the minimized sum. Okay, so this one we call this Gaussian formula. Okay, so the big difference between the Gaussian and the previous one we call it min-max or Chebyshev. Okay, min-max or Chebyshev. Chebyshev only used the worst point to minimize the worst point, but this one Gaussian we are going to use all of the point. So that's why when we use the different formula, you will find different datum. For example, here is the actual bottom surface of the part, and you may notice here this edge is badly deformed, and here this edge is badly deformed. So what does it mean? When we use the least square, I mean the Gaussian, since all of the point were in the calculation, so here we are going to get the datum of this blue line, because all of the point will be used in the calculation. So we'll get this one. It's kind of more democratic because all of the point will be play a part in the calculation. But when we use the min-max or Chebyshev, this one we try to use the worst point. So not all of the point will be used. They're only carrying the Chebyshev only carrying the worst deviation. Okay, so those kind of abnormal point will affect association geometrically. So in that case, you will get another associated or best fit line here. This is red one, and this red one is min-max. So it's different. And this one is the old standard. The old standard use Chebyshev. The new standard we are going to use the Gaussian. Okay, again, as I mentioned, the change only applies to single plane as datum. Single plane as datum. So there's a change. But what about the datum A is two surface. Here the surface number 1, and here the surface number 2. This is not single. Actually we call this common. Okay, it's a common datum. What I mean common? It basically is two or more than two surfaces. You combine, you accommodate them, you use them together to establish the datum A. So in that case, the formula, the association formula keeps the same. They're going to use the min-max or Chebyshev. Okay, so repeat that again. The new standard only change the association method for single plane as datum, but for the common datum, they keep the same min-max. Okay, this is number 3. Update number 4. The new standard add annex G, number G. And this annex number G, it shows how to establish from datum to datum coordinate system. To give a picture here, for example here, in the join we can find datum A is a hole, and datum B is a side surface, and datum C is a top surface here. So how to use this datum ABC to establish the coordinate system? Number one, you see here, the hole, first you will get a line. The number one is a line. And then datum B is a side surface. So number two is a plane. You see, it's a plane here. So you have a line, you have a plane. So the last thing what you need is to, you need a point, right, to limit the deviation of this side. And this point is established from datum C. So here there's datum C here, and the datum C should be vertical to this axis and vertical to this datum B here, and then you get a point. So as we know, to establish a coordinate system, all you need is a plane with a line and with a point. So from here you can get it here. This is the coordinate system. The point means the orange of coordinate system, and here is axis X, and here is X or Y, and then you can see X, Y here, and then you can Z. Okay, so how to establish the coordinate system from datum ABC? They use this picture clearly to tell you, and this is the way that the CMM establish the coordinate system here. Okay, update number 5, the new standard add a new annex H, and this annex H has a many content related to filter symbols and attached nesting index. And as we said, is to build, to get in order to get a measurement properly, first we need to filter the roughness. Okay, we need to filter roughness. Okay, so how to do that? There's so many different filter symbols we're gonna use. So in this video, we don't have time, to learn this annex H. Okay, so I can leave to you for self-learning. Okay. Update number 6. This update is very important. It is clarify the relationship between the datums, and we know for datum there's a datum ABC. That means some datum is before another datum. So in this updates, it tells you the relationship, how's the succeeding datum related to preceding datum. Okay, let's look at one of the join here. For example, datum A is a top surface here, datum A, and datum B is a hole, and datum C is side surface. Okay, so how can we use this datum ABC to locate a part? Number one, we get a plane. This is datum A. So here is datum A. Number two, here we are going to use this hole, the maximum inscribed, for this one we are going to use the maximum inscribed feature, okay, to locate the hole. So currently this part is sitting on datum A and then fixed to datum B, but however this component can still be rotated, right? It's still allowed to rotate. So lastly, we are going to use the datum C to limit the rotation. But how can we limit the rotation? As we know, from this side surface to the hole, for each actual part, the distance will be different, because the production, there's always deviation. Nobody can produce the perfect distance here. So that means this distance for each part is different. So how can we find datum C then? So we're going to use what? First, we're going to measure of this surface and try to get, to get highest contact of this surface, and then we're going to move this highest contact surface to datum B, because datum B is before datum C. So that means if datum B is before, that means datum B will be established the origin of coordinate system. So datum C is only used to limit the rotation, but not used to limit, the deviation of this side. Okay. Another key here is datum C is not required to locate at basic dimension to datum B. So datum C is not required to be perfectly located to datum B. This is not required at all. Okay, because the default criteria in the ISO GPS, datum C only need to keep the perfect orientation to datum A. For example, datum C surface should be vertical to datum A, and also datum C should be parallel to datum B. Datum B is basically is axis here. Is axis here. Okay, should be parallel, but the distance constraint is not required. That's why here we are removed to here. So that we can see from here. All right. So let's look at another example. Use the same theory. Can we get this? Can we get the same coordinate system? Look at this one. Okay, so we have a coordinate system here. There's another example here. Datum A is the bottom surface, and datum B is the hole. Again, datum C is the center plane of this slot. So how to find datum C? The datum C, we should use this side surface and this side surface to get a center plane. Okay, and once you have datum C, that means we can use the datum C to limit the rotation of this part, right? As we did previously. So can we do that? Yeah, let's look at here. This is the actual part, and datum C is produced, which is not perfect, and we know no part could be perfect. Okay, so this datum C is rotate a little bit. And how to find datum C? As we mentioned here, we're going to use the CMM to measure this surface, and then measure this surface, and then we get a center plane, and then we extend it. That's datum C. And then we move to here, then we get the X and Y. That's the exact method we used previously, right? So this is the result. So you may find something not right. Why? Because the datum C is so short. The center plane is so short. That means a little bit tilt here will cause geometric deviation. So you're using the datum C based on this short center line, you will get a big arrow. The X and Y is not stable at all. So from from the common sense, you may think, hey, hold on, we cannot rely on this center plane to establish the X direction, right? It's too short. So mostly you would like to use the datum B and C together to build your X axis. Okay, so how to do that? In that case, you're going to use, basically what you want here is you want to have a inner, just like a inner associated square here, and the center plane of this inner square supposed to be goes through the center of datum B. That means the center of datum C is locationally passed to center of datum B, right? Basically, in this direction, the nominal distance is 0. But however, if you require the center plane supposed to be passed through the center of datum B, that means there's location requirement between datum C and datum B. Okay, and this location requirement from datum B to datum C, which is not default requirement. Okay, but you want to do that, right? You want to use this one to establish your the x and y. So how to do that? In that case, the new standard allow you to add a special notes in the join to tell that you would like the datum C should have the location as well as the orientation fixed to datum B. So the key thing here is you manually add location requirements from datum C to datum B. Okay, so this we are going to solve a lot of problem, because if the location requirements is not there, quite a lot of time you use the short feature of datum C, you're gonna get a lot of error here. Okay, so that's why we allow the design engineer to use these additional nodes to add the location constraint for datum C to datum B. Okay, and then we're going to see another application. This is pretty similar. Datum A is a top surface, and here datum B is here. Datum B is the center hole, and we know use datum A and datum B, we control all of the degree of freedom, but except the one, the component can rotate, right? Can rotate. So we're going to use datum C to limit the rotation. Again, the default requirement of ISO GPS, it means datum C, which is the center plane of this slot here, datum C, is not required to relate to datum B. So that means the default standard, even the datum C tilde, we still use the center plane and extend it, and then move to here, and then we get the coordinate system. Obviously, that's not what you want. It's going to have the same problem as we mentioned in the previous slide, right? So what you want here is you would like the datum C that's supposed to be have a location fixed to datum B. Okay, so how to do that? Again, you want to have this one to have location fixed to datum B. Then you need to add special nodes here, and these special nodes tells you the datum C is supposed to have the location as well as the orientation fixed to datum B. Okay, so it also helps a lot for the inspector to understand your requirements, because based on different requirements, the inspector will use the different way to establish the coordinate system. Okay, so actually I always have this question before. Sometimes if the datum C is long, like here, let me show you here, this is datum C is pretty long, and then at that time you are allowed to use the datum C to build the direction of coordinate system. You just use this one, you can build direction, right? You don't have to rely on datum B. As long as you have datum C, then you get the direction of coordinate system, right? But what about the shorter one, right? What about shorter one? Let me give one more example here. If it's if the component the datum C is pretty short, what about this one? Here is datum C. It's short. What are we gonna do? Obviously, the short side will have a lot of arrow here, the deviation here, right? You are not supposed to use this short edge to build the x direction, y direction. So in that case, again, you need use that, special nodes, to tell the inspector you're going to use a short surface here, which is supposed to be have a nominal distance related to datum B. Okay, so this is an application, right? It solves the problem how long that datum C, which is used, could be used to establish the coordinate system, right? You don't have to answer how long. All you need to do here is add special nodes. Okay. So we have explained this number 6, as we said, is pretty important for our to understand the relationship between the datum ABC. Update number 7, this is pretty good. Is since we have so many different symbols used in the datum specifications, so obviously we need to specify which symbol should be used first and which symbol should be used secondary. Look at here. So here is the datum A and datum B and datum C, and you may see there's so many mysterious abbreviation here, right? So we have explained a little some of them. For example, SF10, we have explained just now, means size fixed, which is 10. Okay, so what about this one, PT? PT means point. And what about this SL? Straight line, it's a line. And what about PL? It's a plane. Okay, so there's more than here. There's a lot of different, special symbols will be used with the datum A, B, C. So we need a table to tell the designer, if you want to use all of them, which one should be first and which one should be second. We call this sequence. And before, for this portion, we call this tolerance feature. We already have a table here. For example, you should use the MMC modifier first or before this modifier. F means free state. That's the sequence. In this chart, it tells you the sequence. And you can find this table in ISO 1101. Okay, it's going to use for tolerance feature, but here it's used for datum. This table is added to the latest standard, ISO 5459. Okay, let's have a look here. So this is the datum A, and then you can use the filter. You see here is the filter. And then if the datum feature is a threaded hole, it's a screw hole, then you can specify it's a pitch diameter or it's a major diameter and a minor diameter. Okay, and you can also specify the size. We have learned size variable, size fixed, right? And also you can specify which is are you going to use the section, and the ACS means any cross section. And here's contact face, and the C means Chebyshev. This is association, criteria. C means Chebyshev or min-max. M means without material constraint. Okay, so you're gonna learn this. You can learn all of this in my latest course, which is ISO GPS. I published in Udemy. Okay, in Udemy. Okay, so you can find this sequence of different symbols from this table. And lastly, the update number 8, the new standard update GPS matrix. The old standard tells you ISO 5459 only covers datum section, and we know for ISO GPS there's a size, distance, radius, form of datum, blah blah, all of this location, orientation. The previous standard tells you only covers datum, but obviously this standard is not only covers datum, it covers more than that. So that's why the new standard changed this matrix. It tells you the new standard will cover from here to here. So all of this is covered. Okay, so this matrix is updated here. I would say it's supposed to be like this way. Alright, so that's all the updates I can explain in this video. Again, as I mentioned, if you want to learn more about the ISO GPS or GD&T, you can take my course at Udemy. And the first course, I have 3 courses. The first is GD&T Learning, which is based on ASME Y14.5. The second one is ISO GPS Learning courses, which is based on ISO GPS. The last one is the Tolerance Stackup. Okay, I already published 3 courses, and in the near future, I'm gonna post another one, which is gauge design. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna post the Udemy linkage under the notes of this video, and you can also search in the Udemy, search GD&T Michael or GD&T Craig. Craig is my company. Okay, that company that I'm working for. Okay, so you can find my courses. All right. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'm gonna see you in the future.